Hi, it's Rob, and I'm here with my Ryobi Zero Turn with the lithium battery swap. And I've actually mowed with it about 5 or 6 times now. I'm going to do a couple of voltage checks to see if somebody's having any troubles with their power supply, to look at a couple of different areas on where they should have 48 volts or 53 volts should be present, to see if it's all wired up correctly or not, or if there's some sort of an issue. So all I can do is check where my working mower has power, and we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to start in the back with the charging port, then we'll look at the battery connection underneath the seat, and then I'll pop the instrument panel off, and we'll check the voltage in a couple spots there. Now there's 3 connections inside the charging port, and I've got my voltmeter out here, and putting the positive on the left side and the negative on the right side on these bottom 2 ports, or the bottom 2 leads. That checks out with the battery voltage of 53.6. That is the actual charging port, because I did take the plug apart on the charger, and there's 2 wires connected to these 2 connections. There's nothing connected to this upper one. And I think this upper one is actually supposed to be the thing that tells the mower that it's plugged in, and not to drive away with the charger plugged in. So out of curiosity, I also checked that one being the positive, and I checked the upper one, and that one's actually grounded, because with the positive in this port here, this one here is grounded. And so I get my, oops, come back here. I'm getting somewhere around 53 volts, 52.9. If I do it here, I got 53.6. So first place I would check for voltage is check here. If you got 53.6, that's a good thing, or somewhere around 53.6. Next, we'll flip the seat up, and we're going to look in the panel underneath the seat to look at those connections. In there. So we're going to snap these 4 clips. Pop this panel off, and this gray connector here is the main connection from the batteries to the rest of the mower. So red is positive, black is negative. So you should be able to put the probes inside the connector and make a connection there. So I've got 53.6 here at the connections. You can also wiggle this loose and pop this off, and I can't remember which one's which. I think this is the one that goes to the batteries. So you can also put your positive and negative in here, red to red, black to black, and touch those. 53.6 is coming right off the battery, and the mower is disconnected from the batteries now. One other thing to check if you don't have voltage here is to check this fuse. I've never had to do that, but this is like a 150 amp fuse right here, and if you somehow manage to blow that, then of course you won't have any voltage here, and you won't have any voltage to your mower. So I'll plug that back in. So we can shut this up, get those snapped in, try to pull your lead out afterwards. You can always pull it out before. And we'll move over to the instrument panel. So for the instrument panel, we've got 4 screws to remove. And here's my connections underneath here. So here's the original plug for the old battery meter, and you can see that there's a green, green, and black. And I found the 48 volt plus off this lead here. That's the farthest one away from the black wire, which is ground. So for the sake of checking, I'm going to go ahead and put the black probe in the black wire and the red probe into the green wire. And I have no voltage. And hopefully when I turn the key on, I'll have voltage. Don't make me a liar. There it is. 53.4 volts according to my meter. So that means I've got voltage at this green wire. Now I'm going to go over here and touch this green wire. I never did this because I found my switched power on that one green wire and I just jumped to that. But for the sake of checking, I'm going to check it in the other green wire, and that also has 53.4 volts. And with the key off, it has 0. So that other green wire should also work as a power supply, from as near as I can tell. Turn the key on, and I got 53.4 volts at the middle green wire, and the black wire being the ground. So that's where the green wire is connected. I didn't check anything on the key switch. There's only 2 wires going to that, so I assume that that these 2 wires here, that kind of implies that I had read somewhere in there that the auxiliary position doesn't do anything. So I put on the auxiliary position on the key, nothing's lit up. If I go to the on side, then the gauge lights up and all the buttons will light up. Auxiliary, nothing. On, everything's on. Right now the meter's saying I'm at 53.39 volts according to this battery meter. So that means that probably if I unplug one of these wires while it's turned on, that, oh, it's got that clip in there, I forgot. There we go. And of course that disconnected it. So one of these leads is probably going to check out as being positive. So to find a ground, I'm going to go back to here because I know that this black wire is a ground. I can connect that to here. And there's nothing there. I connect it to here. I don't have enough fingers here to get everything boosted up, and I got nothing there. So this is not a, oops, let me try it again. And then the negative there, let's try here. Nothing, and nothing. But when I plug them both in, that does make the connection. So that makes for an interesting situation. So there's no voltage here, so this is not a power supply, but it does create some sort of a switch. There's a pretty good chance then that is one of these is grounded, and when it gets connected, it connects to ground, which activates a relay. So I don't know what else to check under here, but just to tell you that under normal circumstances, all I can say then is under normal circumstances, without probing all these wires trying to find a switched power, that this is probably not a good place to try and find switched power. This is still the best place to find switched power, and it looks like either one of these will work. And to reiterate, I ended up jumping off this wire here, and it seems to work for me, and that's got the 53 volts when. So what I know for sure is that it doesn't look like you can get power off the actual key switch, but you can get power off of either one of these green wires from the old gauge, and I chose to come off of the, I'll call it the top green wire, but the middle green wire also has power when the key is on, and it also has power, or no power, when the key is off. Neither one of these has power. So just for fun, because I had some trouble taking the back panel off because of the Loctite that was put on these screws, I decided to try and take the charging port apart to avoid taking the back panel off again to see what's going on behind the charging port. And these screws also have that blue Loctite. I'm going to call it Loctite, but it's a thread lock material on there. And what that did was 2 of the screws did come out. They are attached to some, looks like brass nuts that are locked into the plastic. And the Loctite won again, and you can see that the bolts got, they spun the nuts inside the plastic, so these got stripped. So I'm going to get a wrench and I can get these out, and I'm going to try and have to glue these back into the plastic to try to get those seated. So this wire here probably goes to that top connector here in the charging port, and it's probably related to the interface to stop you from moving the mower if the charger is plugged in. So I'm going to do a little more work on trying to figure that out. It looks like this blue wire is connected to the red positive port here, as well as the red wire. I think those 2 are connected to the same port, and this one here looks like a ground. So the black and red are going into this cable, which appears underneath the seat. And then in some of the other videos, I unplugged the blue wire and I unplugged this white plug during moving the battery pack in and out. And you got to make sure that those 2 are plugged in. Not sure why, but on mine they're plugged in and mine works. So, matter of fact, now that I've got this all undone, I'm going to have to try and make sure that it still works, that I haven't done something else unusual. So, let's see if I can do that. Break off, key on, the instrument panel lights up. There's the blades, and I've been moved. So now I'm going to see if I can get this put back together safely so I can use it again. All right, I decided since I had this apart and I'm waiting for this glue to dry on these nuts, that I'd go ahead and unplug each of these wires. The white plug, I believe, goes to that 3rd connection in the charging port. I don't think that's actually doing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that apart, and then we'll see if the mower turns on and if it moves. So white plug is disconnected, keys on, gauge is lighting up, and the mower moves. Blades work. Brake back on, key off. Let's go back to the back. I'm going to go ahead and put the white plug back on. It only goes on one way, just be careful. It looks like it goes on multiple ways. Okay, the blue plug is a little more difficult to access. And this blue wire with a black plug, a black connector, you may have some trouble getting this back on, but I'll give it a shot. Oh yeah, that's a long ways in it. Okay, the blue wire is unplugged. That blue wire is going to the positive port, a positive connection on the charging port. So let's go back to the driver's seat. Turn on the seat switch, brake off, key on, and there's nothing. So we're not moving, the gauge isn't on, and the mower doesn't work. Turn that off, set the brake. Back to the back, and I'm going to try and get that blue wire connected again. And I think that's going to be very difficult to get connected because it's way in there now. And I think it goes to this black box that's screwed to the green bracket underneath the seat. So I've taken the screw out of that, and that does indeed have the blue wire with the connector. So I put this screw in a safe spot. So if I'm correct, then if I get this plug back in, I should be able to move again. So with that relay or whatever that is loose, I can pull the wire out through the charger port opening, and I can easily get that plug back in. And then I have to reach back in here, get that black box back out here, connect that back to the green bracket with the Phillips head screw. So for those of us who swapped out the batteries, we got to make sure this blue wire gets connected back up to the charging port, because apparently that is some sort of, well, it's necessary for the mower to run. Snap, snap. Snap, snap. Seat down. Double check it. Break off, key on. Instrument panel lights up. Everything lights up. And mower. And we move. So, when you're moving out your batteries and everything, make sure you get that small blue wire connected back up that's connected to that little black box that's Phillips head screwed to the green bracket. If that's not connected, your mower's not going to work and your instrument panel's not going to light up. Good luck. So that's about all I could say about the power at the different connections on the on my mower that is operating. And like I said, I'm going to try and get my charging port put back together, and I'm going to get the take this Loctite off these threads. I'm sure they put them there so they don't vibrate loose during operation, but if they can rip the nuts out of here and tear up the nut clips on the back panel, they're just a little bit too strong. Anyway, I hope that's helpful to some people. So, as a bonus feature, I got the brass nuts put back into the plastic. The holes were pretty wallowed out. I put a little bit of wood glue on, so we'll see how that works. I don't know, it's like PL 510 or something like that. I took these screws and wire brushed most of the so-called Loctite off of there, and to get them back in, I couldn't push them back in by hand. I tried pounding them in with a hammer. The way that it was the best way to work was to take a pair of channel locks, put those in there, and just squeeze them in, which of course gets glue all over my channel locks. But that seats them flush with the plastic, so after that's dry, I should be able to put the screws in and get my power port put back together.